Hey, Brett, look at this.
What?
Look at your hands.
This is insane. We're animated.
I love this. Look at it. Look at it in the background. You see that big store? You know what that is, Brett?
That is the Ultimart.
I am excited to tell you guys out there, that we are finally, years ago, Brett and I worked on an animated show. And Brett, what's it called?
Shoes and Beef.
Shoes and Beef. Shoes and Beef, friends for life. And they live in the Ultimart. They walk around the Ultimart, which is a store where everything has come alive. And we are excited to tell you guys about Shoes and Beef. It's coming to this channel. Make sure that you guys are sticking around, tuning around, looking around, beefing around, choosing around, beef, shoes, and beef, and beef, and shoes. Yeah, shoes. Friends for life. That was very good, Brett. Thank you. What's going on, everybody? It's a special Tuesday episode. Normally I don't do the Tuesday episodes, but we have a very special Tuesday episode. There's some DC news that dropped up top, and that's going to be Black Adam set to lose around 50 to maybe 100 million. So I was off on that one. That's part one. Part two is The Flash gets pushed up a week. So they're definitely going forward and, start leaning into that one pretty soon. But this episode is one that's a little special to me because, as you guys may or may not know, my world for a long time was stand-up comedy. And it was my job. It was everything I did. And the Comedy Store was my base. It's where I lived. It's where I met a lot of my friends. And I hold it very dearly in my heart. So one of the comedians that came up after I had left was Fortune Fiemster, who you know from whether it's a mini project, but she's got a few Netflix specials, and she's got one out now called Good Fortune. And I had an opportunity to have a conversation with her and talk to her, and we just talked about stand-up the whole entire time and just how relatable her stuff is. And I had heard, because Mark Ellis had told me about her and how nice of a person is. She's an absolute sweetheart, man. Just you can just tell, just like a good, down-to-earth person. And I always root for good people to do well, and she's doing really well. So we had a really good conversation about that, and at the end she told me about a project that she's working on. You can see me geek out about it. The second you hear the name of who she's working with, you're going to see me kind of light up. So anyway, it's a really fun conversation, so I hope you enjoy the episode today. I'm excited. And if you haven't already done it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Come on, do that, will you? Subscribe, hit that button. Hit that button. Let's get to 70,000. I'm going to have an Avatar out of the theater reaction today, probably around what the hell time. I'm going to see it today. It'll be probably 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m. or so on this channel. Get the out of the theater reaction for Avatar, The Way of Water. So look forward to that. Subscribe, comment. Definitely on this particular video, like, subscribe, do all that. Now, yes, obviously, as you see, that we're going to cover the DC stories, but I want to do more interviews with people in the entertainment business that's not just part of the stuff that whether it's the comic book movies or Star Wars or those types of things. I really want to dive into the stand-up comedy world because, like I said, I have it was my thing. It was where without stand-up comedy, I don't think I have any of this stuff. So, including my family, my wife, while I was doing stand-up comedy. So, I really would like to see if you guys enjoy it, watch it, leave comments, and click like, because it helps me and it also shows Netflix that, hey, this guy's audience actually wants to hear comedians, so we're going to send him some more. Anyway, once again, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. The merch right now is doing great. Sith Council, big thing. We're putting a new shirt up there soon. The You Don't Know Shit shirts going to be up there, but it doesn't say SHIT, so you can wear it in public. It's a poop emoji. Anyway, all right, let's get into it. It is the big thing with myself, some DC news, a Fortune Fiemster coming at you. Here we go. Let's do it. It's the big thing. Special episode, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Special Tuesday episode again of the big thing. Thank you guys so much for all the support and everything too. I know that's been this December. So really, we're only going to have Avatar out as far as the big movies come. Did my Knives Out Glass Onion review. I didn't give a shit about that. It happens. But the Big Thing episode's been doing really well. City Council's doing really well. And we're getting ready to move into that busy season once February hits. But like I said, on Tuesdays, I normally either if I'm doing John's show or if I'm working on some stuff, catching up on emails, it's usually what Tuesday's for. But Netflix reached out and they're like, hey, would you want to talk to Fortune Fiemster about her new special that's on us? Are you kidding me? 100%. Sign me up. Let's do a special episode. Let's let the audience know. And that's what we did. So I pre-taped that. I'll show you that in a little bit, but I want to get to the news and stuff first. Because there's news. There's news. And the first story is you clicked on it here today and you want to know what the hell happened here. Black Adam, which I thought would break even. And trust me, you guys will let me know it's not going to. Again, I get tagged on these articles and everybody wants to prove everybody wrong. Well, okay, you proved me wrong. It's going to lose money. It's going to lose $50 to $100 million apparently. And after 7 weeks in the cinemas, this is from Dark Horizons, the Dwayne Johnson, some dum-dum told me, don't read. It's lazy to read. What the hell are you talking about? I read the story, you stupid ass, and then I comment on it afterwards. That's the whole point. Don't read. Eat shit. Anyway, after 7 weeks in cinemas, the Dwayne Johnson-led DC Comics adaptation Black Adam has pulled in $387 million globally. Variety reports that with a costly $195 million production budget and a worldwide marketing spend of $80 to $100 million, the film that promised to change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe may end up losing a bunch of money. The trade indicates that the film needed to earn around $600 million worldwide to break even, but box office experts indicate the film will close out its theatrical run with less than $400 million globally. As a result, it reportedly stands to lose $50 to $100 million on its theatrical release, according to the estimates of insiders and rival executives. Sources at Warner's dispute the numbers, telling the trade that the film will break even. They add the change to a shorter theatrical window. They add that the change to a shorter theatrical window means the films jump to PVOD, cut costs on home video marketing, whilst increasing revenue from via premium pricing, with estimates of a further $25-35 million gross there. Even so, Black Adam isn't a financial winner for Warner's and joins. So, hey, if that's the case, by the way, if Warner Brothers is telling the truth, I was right, you humps, if they're telling the truth. We don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but if they are telling the truth, which is what made sense, that the stuff, as soon as it went to video on demand and other thing, and they cut the theatrical costs of how long it was going to run, I mean, then yeah, it by no means is the hit that they wanted to have it, but I still think it could break even. So we don't know. It depends on who you believe. Do you believe the trade reports? Do you believe Warner Brothers, who might be trying to, cover their hinders? Doesn't matter. Black Adam debuted to a $67 million opening, on par with DC titles like Aquaman and Shazam. However, those films rode waves of much stronger reviews and had longer legs. Aquaman turned it into $1.1 billion hit, while the cost-effective Shazam quadrupled to its $90 million budget. Black Adam will end up with half the gross of the Batman, which is $770 million earlier this year, but at least it's faring better than $165 million grosses each of Wonder Woman 1984. That's not fair, pandemic stuff. And the Suicide Squad, also pandemic stuff, which saw their performances, limited by the pandemic. Simultaneously, HBO Max debuts, and in Wonder Woman 1984's case, poor reviews. All true. All right. Well, again, not the hit that they wanted, so we can all agree on that, whether you believe Warner Brothers or not. I believe them, not only because it would make me right, but I believe them. I think that they wanted to go longer. It wasn't pulling in the numbers, so then in order to make up the difference, they put it out quicker. They cut the theatrical run. They cut back on marketing. They probably saved some costs, which would make sense. I mean, I believe that report. Not saying they're going to make a profit on it. I still think they probably maybe lose a little bit of money, but I do believe that report. Either way, what they wanted and what Dwayne Johnson clearly wanted was a big, massive hit, and to get those legs like Aquaman. The problem is this. Well, there's a lot of problems, but one of the main problems is this. The movie itself, I enjoyed. Not a lot of people enjoyed it, because what I can say, even though I enjoyed it, it was generic. It was fun, very fun. I had a blast with it. It was generic, and it wasn't like really well written. It wasn't different. It didn't change the game, and that's what they needed to do. They needed to change the game, and they really needed people to lose their minds over it. And it wasn't. It was like a fun, old-school 90s summer blockbuster film that's, for the most part, forgettable, and I hate saying that. I love Dwayne Johnson and everything too, but it was forgettable. I'd like to. The music was awesome. I listen to music all the time, and I want to see another one. I don't think we probably will at this point. We probably will see him appear in one of the DC movies, unless he's scorned by this, because I think he's probably bummed. Wanted, probably ego shot too. Because I still say it, and I said it last time. People were disagreeing with me in the comments, and that's fine. I think that if it's not The Rock, this movie, doesn't really get made. And some people are saying, well, that's probably a good thing because it didn't do very well. But I still think it doesn't make. I think that if you made this movie for the same budget with a different actor, depending on who the actor was, but most likely, it makes it's a bigger loss. I think that the way that he pushed it, he got people to see it, and then obviously the marketing of Henry Cavill coming back. That's going to be the big thing that everyone talks about is the Henry Cavill coming back. So, yeah. What do you guys think, man? Do you think this? I'm so curious with the opinions on it, on whether you think it was a loss, whether you think it was breaking even. And either way, I think what it means going forward. I don't think we see a sequel. I don't think James Gunn wants to take that risk. I think Peter Safran want to take that risk. They're going to probably try to get him to appear in Shazam. If Shazam 2 does well, they'll probably try to appear in Shazam 3. But from rumors that he doesn't like Shazam, I don't know how it's going to go. But they got Cavill back, and him and other people were able to get Cavill back. So that's a big win. But yeah, a bummer. Bummer for Dwayne Johnson, bummer for everybody else and who was involved in it. But just looks like it's not the hit they wanted it to be. Now, one that I think is going to be a big hit for them, obviously, is The Flash, man. Flash is going to be huge. And it's so interesting because Ezra Miller, all the stuff going on with Ezra Miller. But it got moved up. They moved up The Flash. I think that's good news for it, and I also think it's probably something that Safran and Gunn are probably pushing for as well. But apparently, again, Dark Horizons, Warner Brothers Pictures has reportedly moved up the Ezra Miller-led The Flash film by a week to June 16th, just in time for Father's Day. This comes from Deadline. The film will now go up against Elemental from Pixar and the Jennifer Lawrence-led R-rated drama No Hard Feelings. I don't think Elemental or The Flash will have too much problem against each other. They're a different audience, I think, or except families, and I think I don't think it's going to be too much. Despite the tabloid headlines surrounding Miller, who issued a public apology for their troubling behavior back in mid-August, Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav has steadfastly stuck to the plan of releasing the film theatrically. Part of the reason is that the film has reportedly landed stellar test scores and is being dubbed Spider-Man No Way Home good. I know, I've heard that. It's a film that boasts appearances by both Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck as Batman. Warner Brothers Pictures has also added Mummies to its schedule with a February 24th, 2023 release date planned. Sean Bean and Hugh Bonneville lend their voices to the project. Okay. Well, yeah, I think this kind of adds into the fact that they have confidence in it, a lot of confidence in it, and they're pushing up, and they also want to get this train rolling so they can get to Aquaman and then start the new movies coming in. And I'm curious we'll see if there's any reshoots or how that plays. The ending is going to be very interesting. What could very well happen, by the way, I don't know if it will. I don't think it will. But what could happen is, with enough conversations with Ezra Miller, I think it's a massive risk and a dangerous risk. Ezra Miller could stay on board as the Flash. James Gunn and Ezra Miller are friendly, apparently. So maybe they give Ezra Miller a shot. It could happen. Is it no way, no chance? No, there's a chance. I think it makes sense for them to cut ties because they have an out with Flashpoint. They have an out with the multiverse. You can change it up, but we'll see if they're going to do it. But as they said in this report, I had heard from somebody who actually saw a test screening of it and said it was just incredible, like incredible. That he couldn't believe how good it was, and that Michael Keaton was outstanding in it. So that's a good thing to be excited about. And now that they're pushing it forward, they got confidence in it. It's going to be one of their big summer movies. I'm very excited for it. I was excited for when they showed the trailer at the DC Fandom, what was it, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see it. I'll tell you what else I'm excited for. I'll tell you that. Uncommon Goods. Have you guys been paying attention to Uncommon Goods? I saw some people that were shopping on there and said, hey, I spent, you were right, I spent a lot of time on Uncommon Goods, and I wound up buying a lot of Christmas gifts. You should, because I'm terrible at gifts. I'm so bad. I'm really bad at gifts because I always get like this gift cards. I'm not good at it. And I get the boring, basic, kind of bland gifts. I'm not doing that anymore because Uncommon Goods is my secret weapon. It can be yours. It's here to make your holiday shopping stress-free, and you scour the globe for the most remarkable and truly unique gifts for everyone on your list. Whether you're shopping for your Secret Santa, your entire family, Uncommon Goods knows exactly what they want. There's so much good stuff, whether it's the kitchen stuff. I keep telling you about this cheese board that I got. Love it. It's great. And there's other stuff you can get, necklaces and jewelry, obviously jewelry and a lot of different things. You can see just alone on that, they have like cool retro gifts and clothing. It's awesome. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. They look for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. Every purchase that you make at Uncommon Goods, by the way, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They donated more than $2.5 million so far. It's a lot. It's great. And you want to get 15% off your next gift, you have to go to uncommongoods.com/bigthing. Uncommongoods.com/bigthing. Get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. It's Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. Go and do it, man. Go and check it out. Please let me know when you do, and if what you got and how your gifts go over once you give them at the holidays. Cool. Like I said, those are the two topics as far as DC goes. Pretty DC heavy today. I want to know your thoughts. Please comment and tell me your thoughts right now. And now I want to get into the part of the show I'm very excited about. As I mentioned to you guys, a lot of you know at this point, like, obviously I met Mark at a barbecue. And he actually had Fortune Fiemster's haircut when I met him at a barbecue. But Comedy Store is where I met a lot of my friends, had a lot of great conversations. When I went to Mark's show not too long ago, Saturday, ran into my buddy Eliza Schlesinger, who I haven't seen in a little bit. And that was nice catching up with her. But after I had stopped doing stand-up, I stopped going to the Comedy Store because it was like I felt like, going to a gym and you just keep getting the urge to go back and this, and it's a stupid mental thing that I do to myself. But with doing that, I missed out on a lot of the up and coming and newer comedians who have found a lot of success, and one of them is Fortune Fiemster. As I mentioned to her, and I mentioned to you guys up top, I first noticed her in the Mindy Project, and you see her now, and I got a chance to watch her special before I interviewed her, and I tell her as much inside it. I was surprised as much as how much I related to her stuff. She does an excellent job of doing that, and that's kind of her intent. I don't want to ruin her answers to the interview. So, as I mentioned again, please comment. Get to know Fortune if you don't. If you already do, enjoy it. It's a great conversation, but comment, like the episode, do all that. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday, tomorrow, with Sith Council, but I'm also check around that the Avatar, Way of Water, out of the theater reaction. That'll be up in a little bit. So please, please, please enjoy my conversation with the very funny and super, super nice Fortune Fiemster. There you go. What's going on, everybody? I'm excited for this one. Thank you for joining me once again on the show. As you guys know, and you've been watching for a little bit, I talked about for a long time that stand-up comedy was my world, it was my life, it was my job, and the Comedy Store in Los Angeles was my home base, and Mitzi Shore was my Yoda. And I got a chance to work with great comedians and watch people kind of blow up, whether it was Eliza Schlesinger and obviously Mark Ellis and Sebastian and all those peeps. And the one thing that I've always regretted is afterwards, like leaving, all those great comedians that were coming up afterwards, I missed them. And I missed them. And one of them that I've talked about for a lot, and I've talked about with Mark, it's Fortune Fiemster. And I have a chance to talk to her right now. Her brand new special on Netflix is hilarious. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is. Hello. I'm sorry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
This is Deja Vu. Deja Vu.
That's right.
Okay, so let's get into this. I want to know, as far as stand-up comedy goes, because
Yeah.
as I was telling you beforehand, I had a chance to see really great comedians as I was coming up and watching these people blow up, and then I had
Yeah.
first noticed you from the Mindy Project. So can you tell me, how'd you get into stand-up?
Yeah, it's so trippy because there are a number of people who only know me from acting and had no idea that I did stand up until I put out my first hour. But yeah, I started at the Comedy Store in 2007, which seems like an insane place to start stand up for the first time.
Yeah.
But I was already living in Los Angeles, and I was doing improv at the Groundlings and very much into that improv sketch world. And someone came to one of my sketch shows and they were like, "Why are you not doing stand up? You seem like you have a very specific voice." And I was just like, it just seems very hard, a hard thing to do. But I ended up taking a class. And at the end of that class, we did a show in the belly room of the Comedy Store. And that's when I was like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Was it Jody Miller?
No, it was Adam Barnhart. I don't know if you remember him.
I know Adam well. Absolutely.
He used to have a show every Sunday night for years.
Yes, he did. And so I met Cynthia Levine and Adam at the same. Cynthia Levine was my acting teacher when I first got out here.
Oh wow, she's so funny.
She's the coolest. And
yeah.
So that's awesome. So, you know, what's funny is right around 2007, I was that's kind of when I was starting to transition out and get into this silly space. But I had performed in the OR the night before all the Rogan and Carlos Mencia shit went down, like the night before. But like that place, you're not wrong. In 2007, it's not the spot that it wasn't the spot that it is right now.
No, not at all.
No.
It was going through a weird time when I started, like a very dark energy.
Well, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that's how comedy was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anything else to compare it to. And it was like such a hard thing to like make your way through that place. And the rooms were like half empty all the time. And you were like, you know, performing to like drunk guys. And I definitely felt like I like learned how to be gritty in comedy from that place, which is funny because now I'm very much known for storytelling and positivity and lightness, that's what I'm able to bring now that I have an audience. But when you're coming up, it's very gritty. It makes
you tough. It's a gym. It's the stinky gym.
Yeah.
It's the stinky gym, and it gets you tough because it was my favorite place to perform because I love La Jolla. La Jolla is great, but there's something about just the OR at 2 a.m. in front of, you know, 6 people, and it's just like you've got to train. That's how you train. That's how you cut your teeth. And clearly, from being because I can tell even from hearing what you were saying and watching your latest special, you're a phenomenal storyteller. You're such a such a great storyteller. And I told you before we started taping how much I relate to your stories because I am terrible around the house handy wise. I'm so bad at it. Fortune, I'm terrible.
I love that you find it relatable because that's what I want in these stories. I don't want to just speak to like someone like me. I don't want to speak to just one type of person. I want to tell stories that do, you know, reach across different people and where people can listen to these and see themselves in these stories, you know, at different points. But yeah, I think when I put out my first hour, Sweet and Salty, in January of 2020. And that's where I really discovered how much I like storytelling. Because up until that hour, I was always working on half hours, you know, trying to get that Comedy Central half hour was always the goal when you're first coming up. So you're thinking more about punchlines and those quicker bits. And then once I got to do this hour, I was like, oh, I have a whole hour. I can really like take my time and tell like a longer thing. And so I did that. And then after that came out, obviously the world shut down. But then when things finally opened back up, I started my very first theater tour. And then I got to really lean into the storytelling even more. So that's why this Good Fortune special is a lot of stories.
And I love them. And that's what I like the most. That's the type of comedy that I've always responded to, that I enjoy doing myself. And that's why I think, and I absolutely felt that watching, because I think there is that kind of misconception from a lot of people, right? You see, like, because you even say it inside of the special, which I loved, and that's just like, I am not butch. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not. And
Well, like, look, I'm like in flannel right now.
that's what I'm saying. That's what
I
I'm saying.
play the part very well, but if you think I'm handy or I am more of a delicate flower than anyone would ever assume.
I can tell from just talking to you that you are, but there is persona, right? And there's persona for like whether or not it's an image that when you're on television, or just if someone sees you. Like, I didn't know, like, I had heard, like, Mark raves about you, and people that I know talk about how sweet you are and what a nice person you are. But I was like, I've never talked to you, so right away when I see, I've seen your other special, but this one I was like, okay, I can see how why you would. Because that's very early on when you're telling people that, hey, I'm not, because I think it's for that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's for that reason to do it up top, just to say, hey, look, this is for everybody to realize. Because right away I said, okay, she's speaking my language, because I call my friend, hey, can you hang up this picture? He's like, use a nail. Just use a nail.
Yeah, well, I also like once I know I'm gonna film a special, I really like that challenge of trying to make the hour a whole narrative.
Yeah.
I really like treating it like its own book, kind of like here's the beginning, middle, event, and end. And so I wanted to set up in the beginning this like thing about not being butch, and here are examples about how I'm not, and here's times that I really messed up and didn't step up to the occasion. Yeah. And just sort of talking about the misses in those life situations, how I did not rise to the occasion. And then I like to, so you're on this journey with me and you're already bought into that. Like, okay, yeah, that's now we've learned she's like this. And then I like coming back around and so, well, I'm going to tell you this last story. And here is how I am butch. So, suck it.
No, it was,
and that's fun. That's fun for me. I love that coming back around kind of thing.
And it's fun writing too, and it's fun too because, like you said, and you've already gotten everybody on your side as well too. And I think that what I loved is, like as you said, when you're interweaving, and then you even said how, and again another thing related to is I have two kids. I have a 5-year-old and I have an 11-year-old, and you start talking about how like kindergarten and a kindergarten teacher and like having when you had the hammer, and I'm like, yeah, that remind me of the 80s, remind me of those things, but still like what kids can get themselves into and how tough teachers really have to be. I took 4 11-year-olds to Universal Studios yesterday.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Although they were actually really sweet.
They did all right.
They did. I was expecting like Lord of the Flies or something. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting. I didn't know what to do because on the way there, I'm like, I don't know how to relate. Like, I say, hey, you guys watch The Mandalorian? Like, no. But here they are, and they're talking about which boys they thought were the most annoying. I'm just like, yeah, but they couldn't have been sweeter. But it was a lot of fun. But to hear you talk about that, and then I thought that your story about, and just in general, your partner and how did you choose Chicago because of that reason? Because that's where you guys met.
Yeah, I had done my Sweet and Salty special I taped in North Carolina because it was very much about like growing up and figuring out who I was. So a lot of those stories started in North Carolina and happened there. So I liked having that personal connection to it. And then this set, even though I talk about other things, at the heart of it is a lot about my now wife. And we met in Chicago. So I was like, well, feels like a very cool like full circle moment too, like having it be here, and this is where we met and started this journey together. So yeah, it's been cool like figuring out those personal connections. It has made a bit of a tricky situation for when I do whatever I do next. I'm like, I'm running out of stories.
You have fun stories. It's a matter of where you're gonna have it. What place is,
I know.
Is
I'm like, I don't have a connection anywhere else right now, but LA, I guess.
Nowhere else. But North Carolina though was interesting too, and I wanted to talk to you about that because you said you came out to LA, and you started performing stand-up in 2007, but when did you come to LA?
I came to LA in May of 2003.
Okay, 2003.
Which seems crazy to me now.
It's nuts. Yeah, because you're an 80s kid, and just like so.
And I just was kind of figuring it out. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was doing random jobs, and then started as a journalist out here, and then like 2 years into being here, I'd always like loved SNL and like grew up watching that show, and was always like doing I would video record on my VHS. I'm really dating myself now. The sketches, and then on Monday at school I would like perform those for my friends. So I obviously had that somewhere in me, like that like draw to comedy. But I didn't think like you could do it for a living. But I had a really hard time making friends when I first moved to LA, and like I didn't realize how shut off everyone is here. And if you want to be someone's friend, you got to really work for it. And so I started taking improv classes truly as a way to make friends. It was not a career choice.
Did it work inside the improv crew? Because improv is about as cliquey as it gets.
I know it. It did work because it was a series. I did a couple of things at the same time because I long story short, it was like Christmas of 2004, and I called my mom like crying. Or no, it was not Christmas. It was right after New Year's, 2005, and I would call my mom just kind of like, I am so bummed and sad here. I don't know what to do. Why am I even here? I don't know anybody. And she just had a mom moment where she was like, you can come home. That's always an option. But if you really want to stay there, you got to do something about it. You can't just like sit around licking your wounds and be sad and lonely. If you want to meet people, do something about it. And so I like joined a bunch of like improv was one of the things I did. I joined a soccer team, started playing in a tennis league, and by the spring I had like all these friends, and we had this big barbecue in my backyard. It was like a whole different ball game.
I love that. And it's so funny that you say that too. Again, it's like when I got out here I'll even date myself more. I got out here in 99. So when I got out here, I drove for just a little bit. Around a week, I was just driving around, and I couldn't even remember the streets. So I stayed home and just smoked a lot of pot and played Nintendo for like a week. And I called my dad. I said, "I'm moving back to New York. Everybody sucks here." Yeah. And he's like, and he essentially said the same thing. He goes, "If you want to move back to New York and you want to do it, go ahead. But it's like but I know you, and you're gonna kick yourself in the ass because you didn't try."
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. You just have to stick it out, and you do have to try it. And there's no way to really get around not being lonely at first. You're gonna be lonely anywhere you go that's new, and you don't know people. It's just LA's a even more different beast because this whole industry is just built for different people. But I did find that. Even though I never was like quote unquote Hollywood, I felt like you could live out in LA and have a totally normal, happy life. Like my friends and I used to go play like, what is it called? Ultimate Frisbee, like every Saturday, like goofballs,
Griffin Park.
Like we were, I wasn't going to like these big Hollywood events. Like we were like, let's, get a drink and play Ultimate Frisbee. 100%. It was like very normal. Normal silly times while trying to like be a comedian.
You want to stay grounded because it's the same side of that you see, because you see the other people who got him to get caught up in it, and they want to go and they're like, "Oh, I want to go to that party in the house in the hills." I'm like, dude, you have $33 in your accent, and it's like, what are you talking about? And it's like, so those moments and being up, because by staying grounded, it also, I should go backtrack a little bit because of what you're saying, the same thing conversation you had with your mom. It's yes, you want to go after it, but you also got to make sure that you really want it, right? And that was the thing, is like, and I'll be completely honest with you. The other night I had a conversation with my wife. I went to Mark Ellis's taping. I ran into Eliza Schlesinger, who I've known for 20 some odd years. And I told my wife when I got back, I was like, I do have that thing where I was like, should I have given it up when I did, you know? And it's like when you're around it as a fighter and you're seeing these things that you're going through, but it's like, but it's because of people like yourself, people like Eliza, people like Mark, and you see, there's no difference with the grind when you're starting to the grind where you're successful and you have two Netflix specials and you're doing all these things. So tell me about the grind now. Tell me about like what it is, because yes, you have a different grind than when you were here in 2003, but now there's I would assume even more pressure sometimes on you.
Yeah, the grind has never gone away. I mean, it definitely is a job that requires all hands on deck. I mean, my whole life is working, even though I'm very lucky. I have, good friends and my wife, and I'd really try to find balance. I am a workaholic, and so I work all the time. And when I was coming up, it was a lot of like I was constantly performing like tons of shows all the time, never making a dime. But that was all the grind that I had to do to get good at it.
Yep.
And then once you finally get those breaks, then you're just trying to like do shows all the time to, like touring becomes a thing. Like I started touring in 2010. It's funny because like I'm friends with Bill Burr, and I started touring like 2010. And I remember running into him on a plane, and he's always like been such a good, awesome supporter of my stand up and always complimentary. But I saw him on a plane in like, I don't know, 2018. And he's like, where are you coming back from? I was like, I was, headlining whatever club. He's like, you're headlining? I'm like, Bill, I've been touring since 2010.
Right. Yeah. And time goes so quick with it too. It's like a blink of an eye, and next thing you know,
yeah,
for sure.
It's just because as stand-ups, we're all on the road. Like we're not really, I guess now you're kind of clocking what people are doing more because of social media.
Yeah.
But before then, like you didn't, like comics were just off.
Yeah.
You would see them at the store or the Improv or whatever during the week, but you didn't know like where they were headlining or, that they were touring. So we all kind of lived in our bubble. But yeah, I mean, now it's the grind is just like, oh, well now I got to make the next hour better than the last. Right. I got to live life too, because I got to tell stories that are about life, because that's what I like to talk about. Then there's like, it's the business of it. Now it's a business. It's not as simple as the days of like, I was at the Groundlings writing sketches till 1 a.m. and doing shows at the store. Now it's like, oh, I've got this entity thing that you got to keep going and fueling and trying to be creative still.
Well, it's also funny because like you look at how different it was, and then like just being a student of the game, with watching what stand up, how it was back in the day. Like you talk about the 80s, so whether it was with Carson and all, and these things that you had to do in order to make it back then are significantly different to what people are striving for now. And then with the addition now of streaming, as you're very aware of the stuff, like Netflix has changed the game with stand-up comedy tremendously. And it's a matter, as you said before, was like say Comedy Central doing those things. It's how many specials you have on Netflix, how many people are looking. But you're not only just doing stand-up, you've done movies with Netflix, you've done these other things. So how did you first form your relationship with Netflix, and what's your experience been like so far?
To talk about the first thing you said, it is weird. Stand up is that one business where it's never enough to have like one job.
Right.
It's like everyone's like, well, what else are you doing? And you're like, this is not enough, radio show, podcast, movies, TV, stand up, writing. It's everything. Like but that's, I think, the hustler in all of us. We like to have our hand in a lot of different things. With Netflix, I think that relationship started, it would have been 2017. They had already been doing specials. I remember people putting specials on the platform, and I was like, oh, that's like really cool.
Yeah.
And they definitely like, I feel like in the 2017-18 eras when they really started doing that bigger push with stand up. And they were doing half hours. It was season 1 of the stand-ups, it was called. Okay. And they had 5 spots for It was meant to be for comics who were like good comics but weren't quite ready for the hour yet. It was like meant to be the stepping stone, and so I somehow they reached out and offered me one of those spots. And so that was my first taste with the platform, and that was really cool because it was worldwide. I had not been on anything worldwide before. And then from there, I think like a year later, I was like ready to do that hour. They're like, no, you're not. Because that's when it was like really popular and everybody was, not that it's not now, but it was like everyone was trying to get specials. And I was like, oh man. So I was basically told no. And it forced me to like go back on the road and just grind for like the next year and a half. And what I thought was ready a year and a half before, and what I ended up filming for Sweet and Salty were so vastly different. It was like that no was such a blessing in disguise.
Right.
Because it forced me to make that material undeniable. And so right around, I think it would have been 2019. I started doing the radio show with Tom Papa, for Netflix on SiriusXM. So that radio show and the hour special came together kind of at the same time. And that's what really started that relationship.
Tom Papa's hilarious, man.
He's so funny.
He's hilarious. When sorry, go ahead.
He just texted me that he threw bread over my fence. I was like, you could have put it on the porch, He's like, it's in the bushes somewhere. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Hey, if he was working on his hook shot, I love it. Yeah, when I don't know, Ellis and I were shooting something, and we came back to the store, and he was up, and he's just one of those guys you just watch. Like who are you? Because every comedian, it's whether people talk about it or not. There's like it's not a disrespect, but it's like when you're around it a lot. Like when you're at the store and at the OR, sometimes you just kind of find a drift out. You're at the bar, you're in the back talking to people. But then there's other comedians that you just can't help yourself, and you're like, I gotta watch, and everyone's sitting in the OR watching. Who'd you find yourself watching on situations like that?
Yeah, he's like a comic.
Yeah.
But because he's such a good writer, everyone's like, I want to, like, everyone we interview is like, I like worshipped you when I was in the clubs in New York. So that's always cool to hear. I mean, I always love watching Tom. Again, Bill Burr. Every time he's on a lineup, I like scurry out to the side to watch what he's doing, because I'm always, there's certain comics that you're like, I want to know their take on things. Sarah Silverman's one of those people. I always am like, I never know what she's going to say or what she's going to talk about. So to me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
To like see when she's on a lineup.
Those are good
ones.
Those are good ones.
I mean, I've, stumbled into the store when like Chris Rock's been there, like practicing bits, or like he's got some major thing coming up. And that's like such a treat. I got to see his show in Nashville when he was like at the very beginning of his tour, and like seeing it in that stage was really cool, like and seeing how he was working things. And then I got to go to the arena show in Toronto and see like the more honed act, and that was really neat seeing someone at his level, the both sides of it.
How did Ingram do that night?
How did what?
Rick Ingram do?
Oh, he was great. Well, he's so known for his crowd work. I mean, anyone that goes to the store a lot has seen Rick's crowd work. And when I was coming up, that he was like, he would crush every time.
Best.
He's so quick on his feet and stuff. And I was like, how's this going to work in an arena? But he did it. It was awesome.
He's like a musician, man. I don't know how he's able to do it, but he's so fast. So Rick was Rick tells this all the time, but so, most people when they're working at the store, they work at the store, they want to get made regulars, and so they'll work the store and then just hopefully get a regular, and then they quit, and then they start doing spots. I think I might be the only person that became a regular and then started working there.
Oh yeah.
Well, Rick gives me shit for it all the time because I was the worst worker in the world. I would fake. Like they had that big the shaky ladder with the awning, and I used to tell Dean that like I had I said, oh yeah, I got fear of heights. And he's like, no,
Oh my God, hilarious.
Like, no, you don't. And but I did it because at the time you could do the employee spots, and you could do. Rick had like a whole different bunch of spots. But Rick was the best, man. Rick and I just would fuck around. He's hilarious. But it's just it's amazing.
Yeah.
So how much though? But I want to go back to what you just said though about when you were told no on that special, and then you go out, and I think you said the key word for people, for anybody who's wanting to do stand up, thinking about stand up, like stand up. It's what you said there. It was that you were told no, but you had an opportunity. It was like you had this car, but you didn't have all the parts in it that you thought that you thought you did, and then you started honing it. And now you have like this fucking Fast and Furious car that you have now, and it's like it shows you how important working out is.
Well, I see it a lot with the comics coming up behind me because, I mean, I'm still no veteran. I mean, I feel like in comedy you have to be in it like 25 years to be considered a veteran.
Yeah.
So, but the comics that are coming up trying to get their first hour with Netflix, I'm always encouraging them to just go make it undeniable. Like that doesn't necessarily mean that they will still offer you one. Someone will, or you'll find a place for it. There's so many outlets now. But, a lot of people get very antsy because social media has created this, like, now I want it now, give it to me now. I want to be known now. It's taken a little bit of the journey away. Like, you have to build yourself. You have to build your act. You have to get better.
Yep.
And unfortunately, all of us think we're ready when we're like, I'm good. I got it. People are laughing. I'm selling tickets. Come on. And then other people are like, no, you're not. And you kind of get that like door in your face. But I'm always saying to my friends, like, just go on the road.
Yeah.
Like they can't take that away from you. Go on the road, do all these clubs. You will, in even 6 months, be a better comedian.
Absolutely.
And your material will be that much more, it will just be so much what's the word, tight. It'll be tighter and polished, and the punchlines will be there. So it's a bummer to get the no's, but sometimes it is a blessing.
I agree with you, and I think that it also makes you stronger, and it goes back to what we were just talking about with talking about whether you're going to leave or not, or stick it out. It's the comedians that stick it out and try and grind, and you got to be able to take that shot of like I start getting back up on stage recently, and I went back up in on Flappers, and I was
nice.
and I was there, and I had done a set, and I told my wife this, and I was on the drive back, and as I was driving back, I said, it was a weird set because I felt two things. I felt the oldest that I've ever felt on stage. Because there was a crowd of like 22-year-old. I'm like, who's married? Not a fucking peep. Packed house, not a peep. And I was like, oh, and I'm all serious about my kids now and everything too. And I'm like, I stuck. But then there was something that didn't go well. That at 25 or 26, I would have either taken it the wrong way, done a different thing, or tried to maneuver the audience to think it was funnier than it was. And this time I was just like, well, no, do this. And I learned more about myself. And I said to my wife, it was just such a learning experience of doing that, going, from whether it's talking into this stupid thing every day or whatever it is, you learn about yourself, and you got to use that on stage. Clearly what you did in this special. And I got to ask you, as I bring up my wife, I got to ask you about Jax, who you talk about a lot. How is she with you? Because my wife is, like, again, she's a saint, but has to deal with the comedian side of me and the thing of that,
right?
Am I good enough? Have I done this? Am I able to do this? And is this funny? Is this not? How does she handle it? And how is she kind of like an inspiration, or does she do her own thing?
Yeah. I mean, when I met her, like I said in the special, she was a kindergarten teacher, had been for like 13 years. I met her in Chicago, so like LA and certainly the comedy world were very foreign to her. Like she did not know anything about the business. And so when she moved to LA, it was very scary for her. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I think I know this person. They seem like a nice person, but what if they're like, even her mom was like, what if she's like some LA Hollywood party person? So she didn't really know what she was getting into, but then she realized, yeah, I am boring and, not very Hollywood. And so as we've been together now 7.5 years, like
Wow.
you can't help but become engulfed by this whole career because it's so time consuming and life consuming. So now she's very savvy with it. She's my go-to person about advice, and
Yeah.
I don't there's very few decisions, if any, that I make without her when it comes to, especially the big career things. She's very involved. She was an executive producer on both specials because she toured with me
Yeah.
a ton and would give me, notes. And she's not a comedian, but she can see if something's like
Sure.
struggling or she'll remind me of like, well, remember this, what happened to us this place. So she's all in, which is really lovely.
Did she like kind of go back with you on that story? Because the story about how you proposed was hilarious, and the with the freaking what's his face from Beauty and the
Craig.
Beast? Yeah, Craig was just because I could
It's
see
all
it.
true.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, and I because
I exaggerated him a bit, but other than that,
yeah, but I'm sure, but I mean, but again, I felt like the way that I was looking at it when I was watching the special, I said, can I picture myself outside with Fortune as she's telling me this story? And the answer was 100% yes. And I was like, you could just see it because it's that conversation of, because we exaggerate stories even when you're not on stage, right? And that's anybody.
Right.
And it's like, if you want to try to tell further out the story of what this person was doing, but did Jax have a lot of input of, remember when he did this or when he did that? Or did you just recall that story really?
Well, I didn't talk about that story because I proposed that now it would have been like 2019 maybe.
Okay.
And I didn't talk about it for like 2 years or something. Because it was a failed, even though she said yes, it was a failed proposal by any other account,
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of embarrassment probably around it.
Yeah.
And like not going how I wanted it to go and how I was hoping it would go. And then I think it was I started working on it during the quarantine, where it was kind of like, well, I mean, what do I have? The world could be ending. What do I have to be embarrassed about? Like, you just tell your stories.
I'm so glad you did. It was hilarious. It was really good.
Yes. So I just started working on it with the bare bones. And the beauty of touring is that every time you do a show, you add to it, until it became what it is. And the fun thing about this special, and I did the same with Sweet and Salty, is after it comes out, I'll start posting various pictures of these things that I talk about. And people are always like, oh my God, I can't believe that was real. I thought you made it up. It sounded too crazy to be real. And I go, no, and I do that with all the stories. And it's so fun to have that.
What about the Momoa? What about the Momoa story?
Very true too.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was also during quarantine.
Because I looked up as soon as you told the story, I looked up his picture on the side of the road, and I was like, and the fact that you liked it was even better. He
posted their picture because I went back recently to look at that weekend because I was like, I know it was like July of 2020. It was kind of like we were in quarantine, but people were starting to do outdoorsy things.
Yeah,
and because I remember at the time he posted him on the side of the road on Instagram.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I passed by a car, a big van broken down on the side of the freeway, and it was Jason Momoa, and he was shirtless. And I was impressed with being a lesbian that I even recognized him. But that's how beautiful he is.
He's a specimen. He is a specimen.
And I go to my wife, I go, I'm pretty sure that was Jason Momoa.
That was hilarious.
I think
you're good. I got you.
I think my internet was cutting off for a little bit. But yeah, it was a very true story of passing by him and it being like, that's to me, it was so funny because he's like the fantasy for every straight woman I know. Like who had, like, I feel like they would all have this fantasy of him shirtless stranded in the desert, you know,
Here's you as you just.
and I just kept driving.
I love
And it sounds so cold. It sounds so cold when I tell the story, but the reality of it is he was, you know, had a whole group of people with him. There was like 2 vans.
Yeah.
They had a trailer of the dirt bikes or whatever you call it. He was fine.
That was so good. That was great. You guys really need to check out the special, by the way. It's Good Fortune. It's on Netflix now. You can check it out. It is really good. And as I said, a lot of relatable stuff there. And before I let you go, Fortune, I do want to also, you know, as I mentioned, you'd done a lot of Netflix you've done some Netflix movies also, and you worked with Jenny Ortega, who's blowing up right now.
I know. I was just thinking about that. I did this movie Yes Day with her and Jennifer Garner. I got to know her a little bit, not super well because I only did like 4 days on the movie, but I just remember like, oh, she's just so sweet and down to earth. She seems like she comes from a cool family that really cares about her, and she just seemed to really have her head on her shoulders, and that's why right when like she was starting to get more and more stuff, I'm like, this girl is gonna blow up, and she certainly is. It's
Blowing
cool
up
to see.
all over the place with Wednesday and everything that she's doing. So that's massive. So I'm glad to hear that as well. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about is that I have a lot of fans who are big soul fans. And
oh yeah,
and you know you were able to voice, you had a voice there. What was your experience? Because you were Counselor Jerry.
Yeah, I was one. There was like 6 of us that were Counselor Jerry's. It was a very very small part. But listen, as I've learned from that experience, I will do anything, any part in a Pixar movie. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
And even when you're like, I'm this tiny part, and they treated me like I was the star of the movie.
I love that.
And I was like, I would be shocked every time. Like they invited me first off to record up at the studios, which I was like, yes, please. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
And I had lunch with Pete Docter, who directed it and has directed tons of the movies, and the writer Kim Powers, and then I went. So I'm like, again, the tiniest part, and I'm having lunch with these guys, and then I go record, and then they take me on they take me on a tour of the whole campus, and I get to see these animator booths. They like give me presents for my nephews.
Cool.
I mean, it was incredible. And then obviously it was supposed to have this huge theatrical release, and it came out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But they were like, the producer Dana, who's amazing, and Pete would like email me to let me know what was going on. I'm like, you guys don't have to let me know anything, but this is so cool.
That's
so
cool. It's
like
a good relationship to have as well too. I mean, that's awesome.
Amazing. And Dana came to one of my stand-up shows in New York. I just felt like and then we did, Donnell and I did like a fun thing for them during the pandemic for one of the awards they got. And I don't know, they just really make you feel special, and I love that because those movies have such heart.
Yeah.
So to know that the people that work with, you know, that company also have heart and are lovely and kind just made me like, it was probably one of the highlights of my career so far.
I love hearing that. And then, so speaking of that, so you've got the radio show with Tom, you know, and obviously the Netflix relationship, the special that's out now. What else can we be looking out for you at the moment?
Well, I have 2 things. I'm starting a brand new tour, the Live, Laugh, Love tour that will start the end of January. All new material. I'm writing that act as we speak, so a lot of new stories. And what's up on my website right now is a very early list of dates. We're going to be doing tons more cities. But the reason why we held off on booking the rest of the tour is because I filmed this Netflix series with Arnold Schwarzenegger that will come out sometime in 23. It's a really huge action adventure. I think 8 episodes. I'm not sure.
I can't let you leave now. I have to ask you about
I
this.
know, I know. I spent 5 months in Toronto filming it all summer.
Oh my God, how fun was that?
I filmed my special while I was doing in the thick of the show. It was crazy.
I love it. Oh my
So
God.
yeah,
I
we're
love
waiting
it.
to see if we are lucky enough to get to keep doing it.
Okay. Can you talk about that show at all or not yet?
I mean, all I can say is because they've been very hush hush about it.
Yeah.
It's his first ever television series.
I know.
It's kind of like it's not True Lies, obviously, but it's got that air of it, like where he and his daughter are in the CIA and don't know it.
Okay.
The other one is in it.
Okay.
So it's that whole secret life kind of thing. And it's just one big adventure. It's kind of like it's like action for sure, first and foremost, and then a comedic element at times too. It's like, but it's not like a total comedy. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's more
100%.
action forward.
I will absolutely be watching that 100%.
So my characters brings a lot of the comedy, which is cool.
Yeah.
And
you like the Tom Arnold role?
Still get to do action stuff. Tom makes an appearance.
Oh, cool. I was
So yeah, I can say that only because they post about that on Instagram.
I won't ask you anymore because I don't want to get you in trouble. But that's awesome. That's great to hear because that sounds like a lot of fun.
So fun. I mean, we don't know when it's coming out yet. I'm like on the edge of my seat because I've never been a part of anything like that, and I did all this action stuff, and it's like people will see me in such a different light than they've ever seen me, and I just am so ready for it to come out, but it might be I don't know. Those shows take a long time,
Yeah, it does. But see, look, see that Frisbee stuff paid off.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's funny that I just revealed that I'm not Butch in this special, and then here I am having to play tough
kicks.
and shoot weapons and stuff.
You're an actor. That's the whole.
That's right. Hopefully, I pulled it off.
I'm sure you did. Thank you. So it was really nice to finally meet you because, as I said,
I've
been wanting to meet you for a long time, and and now I have the opportunity to do so. And once again, guys, if you have not had the opportunity, please go and do it. Good Fortune. It is on Netflix right now. You'll really, really enjoy it. It really is a pleasure, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I hope to run into you at the store. I'm going to start.
I know for sure. Well, it's been lovely, and I'm so glad we met.
Same here. And guys, thank you for joining me. Appreciate it as always. Do the Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Leave a comment, do the whole thing, and check out Fortune's website as well, and get yourself some tickets. She's going to be in your area. You won't regret it. All right, thank you, everybody. Peace. All right, I wasn't lying. She's absolutely spectacular. What a wonderful, wonderful human being. Go and check out her special right now, Good Fortune, on Netflix. You can check it out. You can watch it. It's a great watch. So do that. And thank you guys for joining me here today on this very special episode of the Big Thing Tuesday episode. As I mentioned, we're going to have the Avatar Way of Water reaction in just a little bit. Going to see that today, so check that out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 70 by the end of the year. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Make sure you do it. Leave your comments. Do that. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side, everybody. Peace.